The AU ministers have with that unanimous decision almost put to rest an issue that has divided the grand coalition government right down the middle after the recent differences that played out in the open among top government officials over whether the ICC cases on Kenya's post-election violence should be deferred from or instead referred to The Hague. Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka insisted that his recent diplomatic shuttling across Africa seeking support to have the ICC cases deferred had the blessings of President Kibaki.
I'm not on a personal mission. I'm going as a special envoy of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya.
While Prime Minister Raila Odinga said the Grand Coalition government had not backed any diplomatic move of that kind and that Kenya would instead support the referral of the cases to the ICC. Raila is currently in Addis Ababa for a different assignment altogether to present a report on the situation in the Ivory Coast, which he prepared after trips to the West African nation which is facing a political crisis. The 5-day AU summit kicked off in earnest in Addis Ababa, and the foreign affairs ministers sitting as the African Peace and Security Council discussed the Kenyan request to have the ICC cases deferred after Tanzania proposed that this be done. Botswana and Sudan seconded Tanzania's proposal, and this was overwhelmingly endorsed by all the member nations present, who now appear to be backing the quest to have the post-election violence cases tried by a Kenyan court. The matter will now be tabled before the African Union Heads of State meeting and possibly sets in motion the wheels that could ultimately see the AU argue Kenya's case out at the United Nations later. It will first have to be tabled at an IGAD Heads of State meeting that is scheduled for this Sunday to discuss three things, top of which will be the Kenyan issue as well as the latest developments in Somalia and Sudan. If the IGAD Heads of State adopt the position taken by the AU ministers today, then the matter will be forwarded as an IGAD position at a general AU session where it is expected to be exhaustively discussed. If passed, it will become an African Union position on the matter, and the AU will then table the same before the UN Security Council, the last phase in a series of moves that could see Kenya allowed to defer the cases and then try all the major post-election violence cases locally rather than at The Hague. Even as some circles in government celebrate this latest achievement, differences over the same within the Grand Coalition threaten to play out at the Addis Ababa summit. PNU is reported to have dispatched Professor Peter Kagwanja and Moses Kuria to Ethiopia to help argue for Kenya's position, seeking to have the ICC cases deferred, while ODM has in Addis Ababa the PM's constitutional advisor Miguna Miguna and Professor Mutaha Kangu to lobby for the ICC trials. It would be interesting to see how Raila responds to the latest position of the AU ministers on the Kenyan situation, given that he is in Addis Ababa in his role as the AU's mediator in the Ivory Coast. Raila is expected back home tomorrow, while President Kibaki will be jetting off for the AU summit later on the same day. Abdi Osman, Citizen Weekend.